Hey friends, tonight we begin in the shadowed corridors of a marble palace, where every wall echoes with whispers. Every cup of wine could be your last, and the throne of Rome offers as much fear as it does glory. So before we dive into tonight's descent into ancient luxury and imperial insomnia, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you enjoy what we do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is in your part of the world. It's always beautiful to see this calm little empire of ours stretch across the globe. Now dim the lights, settle in, and if you can, light a candle, maybe crack a window. Let the cool air remind you that you're safe, and far from the golden nightmare we're about to explore. Because tonight, you are the Emperor of Rome, and you are already in danger. You've just been born, and not like most children, screaming in straw or wrapped in linens, near a smoky hearth. No, you were born in Porphyra, the imperial purple chamber, a room few will ever see, let alone enter. A chamber dyed in power and myth, echoing with centuries of fate. Your first breath doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the Empire. You're not a baby, you're a symbol, a tool, a future divine shadow, who, one day, will hold the lives of millions in your hands, even before you've figured out how to hold your own head up. Somewhere outside your palace window, olive branches sway in the Mediterranean wind, distant goats bleat, children play, and poor women carry jugs from the well, but not you. You're cradled in the arms of an eunuch covered in perfumes. You'll later learn are meant to disguise anxiety. You will never be alone again, not truly. You will be watched, groomed, measured, not in height or weight, but in legacy. You are now enrolled in a curriculum of survival. A lifetime of walking a tightrope made of silk and politics. You don't get lullabies, you get oaths. Ancient promises whispered by senators and generals, who bow before your crib with fake smiles and hidden daggers. Your first toys aren't dolls or wooden horses, they're miniature versions of the fasces, the rods and axe that symbolize Roman power. You are taught, without words, that you are the axe, or the one it will fall upon. By the time you can walk, you are not toddling barefoot in a sunlit atrium. You are paraded, your tiny sandals laced with gold, your hair oiled with myrrh, and your smile weaponized. You learn quickly that every laugh earns praise. Every frown causes alarm. You're not allowed to be moody, or messy, or a child. You are trained to speak with grace, to gesture like a god, to lie without blinking. Your tutors, stern, elegant, and always watching, teach you philosophy, rhetoric, and war. But mostly they teach you one thing: never trust anyone completely. Even your food is a battlefield. Every grape inspected, every crumb tasted first by a trembling slave who prays it wasn't poisoned. And if he dies, a new one is brought in. The banquet must go on. Even your naps are political. Too long, and the Senate murmurs that you're sick. Too short, and whispers, begin about mania. Either way, a scroll is sent. Always a scroll, always a record. Privacy. That's for mortals. Your friendships, carefully curated. You don't choose friends, you are assigned alliances. The boy who makes you laugh, he's the nephew of a military governor. The girl who gives you a carved ivory dog, her father, controls half the grain that feeds Rome. And yes, she's probably also your cousin. You're not surrounded by friends. You're surrounded by names, bloodlines, claims to your throne. Everyone is nice to you, because everyone has a reason to be. Even your pets might be political. The falcon, you're gifted as a birthday surprise. A symbol of Jupiter's divine blessing, or a bribe from the Eastern governors. You love it anyway, until it disappears mysteriously. A week later, the senator who gave it to you is executed for treason. No one mentions the falcon again. As you grow older, the walls of the palace begin to close in. Not physically, but spiritually. Every corridor hums with tension. The guards bow, but their eyes linger. The servants smile, but their hands tremble. The senators offer gifts, but their dreams are filled with power that isn't yours. And your tutors, they begin preparing you not just to rule, but to survive the moment you do. Because here's the truth, whispered behind curtains. And in gardens, where no ears are supposed to hear. The moment you become emperor, the clock starts ticking. Some will want you gone within days, some will wait for years, but everyone is watching you finally come of age. The ceremony is beautiful. Trumpets, laurel wreaths, petals thrown like blessings from the gods. Your mother weeps or pretends to. Your advisors smile, but they are already making backup plans. You are crowned emperor. You are handed the orb, the scepter, the seal. You are dressed in robes so heavy they remind you, power always comes with weight. You give your first speech. Every word has been polished by a dozen scholars and passed through 3 astrologers to make sure it won't doom the empire. You raise your hand in the Roman salute. Your voice trembles just once. A senator notices. He will remember that. Maybe forever. That night, the moon rises over your marble balcony. The city glows below, alive with wine, cheers, and music. You don't sleep, not because you're overwhelmed, but because 2 bodyguards are stationed at your door. And you can hear one of them whispering about succession laws. Your first morning. As emperor begins, not with breakfast, but with paperwork. Dozens of scrolls. Edicts, please. War reports, grain requests, temple expenses. Petitions from a fisherman whose boat was trampled by an elephant during last week's parade. Every scroll is urgent. Every word is sacred. And every decision you make today will echo for years, or be used against you tomorrow. You sip wine. Not too much. It's been tested, yes. But still paranoia tastes stronger than grapes. You nod at your steward. You sign your first order. You hear applause in the distance. But deep down, something has already changed. You're not the child in purple anymore. You're the emperor, which means you've just inherited every curse that comes with the crown. Outside, the statues gleam in the sun. The fountains flow. The doves flutter peacefully in the temple courtyards. But inside the palace, a senator is scribbling something. A general is counting troops. A distant cousin is reading a history of assassinations with too much interest. And beneath your golden robes, your skin crawls with a simple question. How long can I keep this up before they come for me? You smile. You wave from the balcony. You bless the city in the name of Mars, Jupiter, and the divine Roman people. You retreat back into your chamber, the door closing behind you like the lid of a golden tomb. The air smells of oil, ink, and ambition. And ambition. Somewhere, behind a velvet curtain, someone is listening. The curtains are still drawn. The incense still clings to the air, long after the priests have left your chamber. The smell, a mix of frankincense, olive ash, and wilted rosewater, lingers like a ghost you didn't summon, but now must host you. Wake, not from slumber, but from that strange royal half-sleep, where the body rests. But the mind stands guard, because emperors do not sleep. They hover, they calculate. They pretend to be at peace while their heartbeat drums a slow warning beneath silk. Somewhere in the palace, someone is awake. A steward checking the grain ledgers. A poet reciting verses for your morning audience. A cupbearer quietly shaking, with fear because the wine shipment from Alexandria is late, and he has no excuse. You sit up, slowly, not because you're tired, but because emperors don't rise quickly. That's for mortals, not gods. You are divine, or so you must act. Even now, your movement is ritual. Feet touch the marble, back straightens, hands folded, perfectly visible to the guards stationed outside your door. And just like that, another day of ruling begins. The throne room awaits. But first, the rituals. Not religious ones, political ones. The theater of survival. You must be dressed. Not by yourself, of course. You are draped, robed, fastened, buckled. Your tunic adjusted by trembling hands that dare not meet your eyes. Each layer has a meaning. The white linen symbolizes Jupiter's blessing. The purple sash reminds everyone that you were born in the chamber of emperors. And the golden clasp near your collarbone, that was once worn by a predecessor who was poisoned during breakfast. You wear it anyway, because tradition, like power, does not ask if you're comfortable. Your sandals are laced, not too tight. You must walk like marble floats, effortless, ethereal, divine, even as blisters bloom beneath the soles of your feet. Then, you are perfumed, lightly, The fragrance is chosen by your court astrologer. Something about Mercury being in a favorable position. Something about citrus warding off betrayal. As if betrayal can be masked by oranges. The doors open, and the throne room exhal. It's vast, high-ceilinged, echoing, sun-drenched. The floors are black and white marble, cold, clean, eternal. Every step you take across them sounds like thunder wrapped in velvet. Each footfall a reminder. You are the empire, you are the law, and everyone here is watching. The throne isn't just a seat, it's a test, made of oak, overlaid with beaten gold and ivory. Not comfortable, not warm, but symbolic. There's no cushion, there's no rest. You don't sit, you endure, and the throne. It watches back, not literally of course, but you feel it, the weight of every emperor before you, pressing down. On the carvings, Augustus, Tiberius, Trajan, their ghostly hands on your shoulders, a reminder that power is borrowed. Never owned, the room fills. Advisors first. Faces powdered and calm, robes fluttering like doves pretending not to peck. Then come the generals, in armor more decorative than useful. Then priests. Then senators. Each one bows, each one flatters, each one lies. Your chief steward reads today's proclamations. A shipment of marble, lost at sea. A governor in Gaul requesting more soldiers. A temple in Hispania, claiming to have found a statue, weeping blood again. Each scroll is a decision, and each decision, a trap. If you send troops to Gaul, Italy accuses you of favoritism. If you ignore the weeping statue, the priests grow suspicious. If you replace a governor, his cousin in the Senate prepares a speech, so you nod, slowly, wisely, like you've already foreseen the future. Like you didn't spend half the night rehearsing what to say if someone mentioned Hispania.mid-morning arrives. Time for the audience. Citizens are escorted in, carefully selected. A war widow, a merchant, a boy who claims to have seen Jupiter in a dream. Each one kneels, each one praises you. Each one begs for something. You grant favors with a balanced hand. Too generous, and they say you're weak. Too harsh, and they whisper that the gods have abandoned your mercy. So you grant a pension, deny a trade route. Smile at the boy. Order an inspection into the dream, discreetly, of course. You don't want the Oracle Guild feeling ignored. When they leave, the marble floor gleams once more. Empty, for now. And that's when your inner circle enters. These are not flatterers, not senators, not poets. These are the real players. The Praetorian commander, the high priest of Jupiter. Your cousin, the one with the lazy eye and too much ambition. They sit closer. They speak softer. They ask harder questions. What do you plan to do about the rumors in Alexandria? Should we raise taxes or cut the grain allowance? And what of the philosopher who called you mortal in a lecture? You give answers, not because you know them, but because emperors must know them, even when they dance single quotes. By noon, your smile has calcified. Your hands rest calmly on your knees, not clenched, not shaking. You've practiced this pose, it says. I am serene. It also says, I am aware of your betrayal. Try me. A tray of fruit is brought. Pomegranates, grapes, figs. You hesitate. The taster samples each one. He waits, he swallows, he smiles. Still, you choose the fig from the middle. Just in case. Afternoon brings a public appearance. You ride in a litter, carried by 6 men in matching sandals. The city cheers as you pass. Flowers are thrown, bread is waved. Children chant your name as if you invented the sun, and maybe you did, at least. That's what the temples say. You raise your hand in blessing. You smile at the crowd. You notice a man not clapping. A woman who turns away too fast. You say nothing, but your guard sees it. Later tonight, they will vanish. You arrive at the forum, make a speech, written by a man who has not seen the sun in 3 years. The speech is beautiful. You read it like poetry. You pause at the right lines. Rome is eternal, you say, and the crowd erupts, even though you know Rome is fragile by evening. You're back in the palace. Your robes are removed by silent hands. your feet soaked in rosewater, your shoulders massaged, not for comfort, but for ceremony. You eat in silence, a dinner of barley, roasted lamb, and wine filtered 3 times. Your mother joins you. She asks nothing directly, but her words curl like smoke around politics, legacies, and which cousin is acting unusually quiet this month. You nod. You sip. You smile. Night falls. Rome softens. The torches are lit. The fountains gurgle in the courtyards. Slaves whisper lullabies to noble babies. Priests trace sacred symbols over their doorways, and you return to your chamber. You dismiss the guards, just for a moment. Just to breathe. You sit by the window, robe undone, sandals off. You look out at the city, your city. The lights flicker like dying stars. The domes glow under moonlight. And you wonder, ... how many of them wish they were you? How many dream of the throne? How many would smile at you by day and smother you by night? You reach for a scroll. It's blank. You begin to write. Not an edict, not a speech, just thoughts. I saw a man frown today. I wonder if he knew I noticed. I think the fig tasted strange. I haven't laughed in weeks. Outside, the city sleeps. Inside, the emperor watches. Tomorrow, you'll rise again, robed, blessed, praised, and feared. You'll pass judgments. You'll endure flattery. You'll wonder who poisons your wine with their eyes. But for now, you rest. Not because you're safe, but because you're exhausted, and you've learned. Even emperors must pretend to dream. The candle burns low. Its golden light flickers against the frescoes, painting shadows across gods who stare from painted ceilings. Unmoved, eternal, and uncaring. You've written 3 lines on your scroll tonight, then scratched them out. Then, rewrote them again. It doesn't matter. No one will read it. It's not history. It's therapy. Your hand smells of ink and rose oil. Your eyes sting from sleeplessness. But you stay awake, sitting at the edge of a bed too large for rest and too sacred for comfort. Because tonight, something's off. Not a scream, not a shout. Nothing loud, just a silence that doesn't belong. Too perfect, too practiced. A silence, sharpened like a dagger. You rise, not in panic. That's for cowards and slaves. But with that slow, regal stillness that even fear can't disrupt. You press your fingers lightly to the wall. Cold marble, always cold. Like the city it protects. Somewhere beyond that wall, a conversation ends too quickly. A footstep stops, then pretends it never started. And you remember what the historian Seneca once said. A ruler's worst enemies are not outside the gates, but beneath the roof. Dawn arrives early. Rome awakens slowly, like a lion with full belly and bloodied claws. The city does not stretch. It shifts, adjusts, watches, and so do you. Your first audience is early today. A letter was found, not a scroll, a scrap, hidden in a loaf of bread meant for the kitchens. Written in Greek, faintly. Smuggled, folded into flour and crust. It reads, "He knows too much. Act before the solstice." That's all. No name, no seal, no signature. And that's what makes it terrifying. You begin your day with smiles, because you must. Your robe is woven from silk, imported from Parthia. A political gift meant to remind your advisors that even your clothes have consequences. Your breakfast is inspected by 5 men, tasted by 2, and blessed by a priest of Vesta, just in case. The eggs taste like ash. You pretend they're fine. Outside, your chamber, the palace has changed. Guards don't blink enough. Servants make fewer mistakes. The walls are cleaned more thoroughly. Not because you demanded it, but because people always polish. The palace right before someone dies. The Senate meets at midday. You walk between towering columns flanked by men who would rather be behind you than beside you. Today's debate is about taxation. But that's not what you're listening for. You're watching mouths move, and waiting for which ones hesitate before they speak your name. You don't watch for insults. You watch for compliments that sound too smooth, too prepared, too final. Senator Flavianus stands and praises your wisdom. That's strange. He opposed you last week. Senator Calvus calls you Rome's eternal son. You recall him weeping when your uncle was assassinated, then voting to forget him 3 days later. The vote passes. Taxation increased. Victory, perhaps. But the chamber feels colder when you leave. In the corridor, a boy bows, a page, maybe 10. He holds a tray with a message from the Vestal Virgins, but his hand shakes, his sandals are untied, and his gaze lingers just a little too long. You smile, you take the note, and later, when the boy is gone, you quietly ask for his family's names, just in case. The Temple of Vesta is sacred. The Vestal's priestesses vowed to purity and silence, rarely request an audience with the emperor. So when they do, you listen. The high priestess is older than Rome itself, or so it feels. Her voice is like silk wrapped around a blade. She offers incense, ritual blessings, and a story, a dream, a warning, a vision of the Capitoline Hill on fire. One who wears the laurel, she says, but hides a serpent beneath his robe. You ask for a name. She doesn't give one. Of course, she doed this is Rome. Even oracles play politics. Back at the palace, a feast is prepared, lavish to lavish. Oysters, flaming dormice, peacock tongues arranged in spirals. The banquet is to honor a general returned from Britannia. He brings stories of cold wind, barbarian gold, and a new song sung by soldiers about your greatness. You smile, but the general doesn't meet your eye. Not once. The goblets clink, the laughter rises, and a senator you haven't seen in months suddenly remembers you're his dearest friend. You excuse yourself early. Too much wine, you say. Headache, perhaps. The truth, you need to breathe. The palace garden is empty, but not silent. Fountains murmur. Leaves rustle. The moon hangs low. You walk the mosaic path alone, or appear to. A guard watches from behind a fig tree. A slave girl brushes petals from the bench before you reach it. Someone coughs in a corridor and then stops. You sit, you listen, and you think about your predecessors. The one who drank poison by mistake. The one who fell from his own balcony. The one smothered by pillow, by wife, by ambition. You ask yourself quietly, would they warn me, if they could speak? Inside, the court is growing quiet, too quiet. Whispers replace music. Eyes avoid yours. A scribe accidentally drops a scroll containing the phrase, Imperatorin. You step into your chamber. The bed is made, too perfectly. The pillows, arranged in the way your brother preferred. Not you. Strange. He's been dead 6 years. You walk to the window. Your breath fogs the glass. Outside, a torch flickers once, then twice. A signal to whom, you don't know. But someone does. You call your most loyal guard, or the one who has lasted longest. You speak plainly. Tell me who plots, or tell me which day I die. He says nothing, then Kneels, then whispers a name you feared, a name wrapped in cousinhood and charm, and then another, and then a third dot. It's never just one dagger in the dark. That night, you write again, a different scroll. Not poetry, not memory, but instructions. If I die before the solstice, summon the Eastern legions, burn the treasury records, and bury my mother with honors. You seal it, you don't sleep. Because emperors don't sleep, they prepare. Night has a different silence now. Not gentle, not peaceful, but taut like the hush before thunder. A silence that knows. Something is coming but doesn't say when. You haven't slept in 2 nights. Not because you don't want to, but because you can't. Not really. Sleep demands safety. And safety is a myth. Emperors are not allowed to believe in. You lie there, stiff beneath linen covers, every muscle poised, listening, waiting. You count sounds for footsteps on marble, the changing of the Praetorian Guard. One creak from the outer door, the steward checking oil lamps. 3 knocks, too soft too. Be official, a code only 2 people were supposed to know. You wait, you say nothing, let the knock go. Unanswered, if they try again, then you'll know. They don't. Whoever it was, They walk away or vanish, and the silence returns, thick, watching at dawn. Your body wakes before the sun does. Your eyes open, not from rest, but from duty, because emperors do not rise. They emerge. The chamber is still shadowed. No servants yet. Just the flickering of the eternal flame in the hallway brazier, and the faint scent of dried lavender, placed by a hand you never see. You stand, you dress yourself. For once, not in public robes, but a travel tunic, soft light, anonymous, because today you need to move unseen. There are parts of the palace that have no maps. Corridors built in times of plague. Storage rooms turned to libraries, then forgotten again. Servant halls that spiral into priest paths and dead-end chambers, behind fountains. You know these paths, because long before you were emperor, you were curious. And curiosity, in Rome, is either brilliance, or a prelude to treason. Your sandals make no sound as you pass beneath the torchlit. You do not speak to the guards. You do not acknowledge the slaves carrying offerings past you. You slip into the northern wing. The wing reserved for guests, diplomats, foreign scholars, cousins of allies, and one man who shouldn't be here. The philosopher from Carthage. He arrived 3 days ago, and already, he's asked questions too sharp to be academic. Why do your statues weep salt, not blood? What dream did you have on your coronation night? Do you ever wish Rome had no emperor at all? He claimed to seek debate, but his eyes say he's seeking something else. You find him in the garden cloister, sitting cross-legged beside a dry fountain, sketching something in the dust with a fig branch. He doesn't flinch. When you appear, he doesn't bow. He looks up slowly and smiles. Imperator, he says, you walk like someone who hears too much. You say nothing. He pats the marble beside him. Sit. The stone is cold enough to remind us we're real. You remain standing. Why are you here, you ask? I was invited, not by me. He shrugs. Rome invites many things it later regrets. You ask him what he seeks. He smiles. Again, not cruel, not warm, just ancient. Truth, he says. You tell him truth is dangerous. Only to lies, he answers. You ask if he's here to plot against you. Would it matter if I were? And in that moment, you realize something terrifying. He doesn't fear you, not your title, not your guards, not even your gods. You step closer. He brushes the dust to reveal what he was drawing, a laurel wreath cracked in two. No names, just the symbol. You stare at it. Careful, you say, voice low. Symbols can become reality. He nods. Exactly. You leave without another word. Because there is nothing more dangerous than a man with no ambition and no fear. Later that day, your mother visits unannounced. She wears mourning robes, not because someone has died, but because in court politics, dressing for tragedy before it happens is considered preparation. She sits. She pours the wine herself. You do not drink. The eastern provinces stir, she says, and generals sharpen their tongues. You ask what she means. She doesn't answer directly. She never does. Instead, she offers advice. Be kinder in public, harsher in private. Let them see mercy. But let them fear your dreams. You nod. She sips. And remember, she adds, when snakes shed their skin, they are not changing. They're preparing. Then she leaves. The wine is untouched. You order it thrown out. That night, there's a banquet again. This time, to honor a visiting merchant prince from the African coast. Music plays. Grapes flow. Dancers whirl like birds of paradise. You smile. You raise your goblet. You offer toasts. But you drink nothing, because the man beside you has a nervous blink, and that's how the last emperor's cupbearer started acting 2 days. Before the funeral pyres were lit, the prince offers gifts. Ivory, amber, silks. You thank him, then ask him directly, do you believe the gods chose your ruler? He hesitates, only slightly, but you see it, and you never forget it. After the feast, you retreat to the Hall of Masks, a private chamber no one enters without permission. On the walls, death masks of emperors past, their faces cast in wax, then, bronze stare from the shadows. Some are kind, some cruel. All are dead. You stare into their eyes and ask. The one question none of your advisors ever dares answer. Was it worth it? No reply. Just cold bronze. And your own reflection. You light no torch as you leave. The moon guides you now. You walk to the edge of the gardens. Beyond the sight of guards, where the marble ends and the cypress trees begin. There's a mausoleum. Here, your brother's. He ruled for 7 months. Choked on a plum, they said. Though no plum was ever found, you kneel at the stone, not out of grief, but out of memory. You whisper, was it your crown they envied? Or just the way you wore it? No answer, but a breeze stirs the ivy. And somewhere, in the city below, a dog howls, long, low, lonely. Back in your chamber, a scroll awaits, unmarked, unsealed. Inside, a single sentence, the garden knows. That's all, no name, but you recognize the ink, the tilt of the script, the philosopher. You don't call the guards. You don't burn the message. You place it on your desk, and beside it. You set a dagger, not to use, not yet, but because emperors prepare. Before they act, you finally sleep, a little long. Enough to dream. In the dream, you're standing at the edge of the Senate, but your robe is too long, your crown too heavy, your sandals melt into marble, and everyone is silent, because you've said something you didn't mean to say. But the dream won't tell you what it was. You wake, heart racing, eyes wide, hand already reaching for the dagger by your side. But the room is empty for now. Morning breaks, slow and reluctant. The sky is bruised gray. Not with clouds, but with something heavier, something silent. The kind of sky that holds back, like a messenger who knows the news he carries will unmake someone. Your windows are shuttered, not from storm, from watchfulness, because there are things you no longer trust the sun to see. You are already dressed before the steward knocks today. You chose the black robe again, not for mourning, not for style, but because when you wear black, people stare, harder, and when they stare, they forget to whisper. The tray they bring holds the usual things, dates, figs, warm bread, olives soaked in brine, and one scroll, no seal, no wax, no flourish, just plain parchment tied in plain twine. You unwrap it carefully. 3 lines only. A man returns, though none called him. Sand in his mouth, eyes like emptied urns. You pause. Let the words sit in the air. You've read prophecies before, but this doesn't feel like a prophecy. It feels like someone describing something they just saw, by the 3rd hour. The whispers reach your court. Senator Otho, missing for 12 days, presumed to have fled to Ostia, has returned. He was found barefoot, standing at the eastern gates of the city. He does not speak. His mouth is full of sand. You descend from your upper chamber not like an emperor, but like a man arriving at his own. Trial. The palace halls stretch wide before you. Columns taller than trees. Walls lined with marble, veined like old skin. Every servant you pass goes still. They bow, yes, but they also hold their breath, because even they feel it, now. Something is moving beneath Rome, and it doesn't bow to titles. You arrive at the forum. The crowd parts. You do not rush. Emperors are never seen rushing, only walking with urgency, that others must match or be crushed by. Senator Otho is seated on the temple. Steps bare-chested, his senator's robe in tatters, legs dusted with desert clay. A physician kneels beside him, murmuring instructions, but Otho doesn't move. Not his arms, not his eyes, only his mouth, which leaks a slow trickle of sand. You approach, and kneel. It is not the sand that chills you, it's his eyes, blank, hollow, as though something inside left, and locked the door behind it. You whisper his name. No response. You ask where he's been. Still nothing. But when you reach for his shoulder, he flinches, and the moment his skin brushes yours, you feel it. Heat, not fever. Sunlight. Dry, ancient, angry sunlight. The kind you feel inside a tomb that's been closed for 1,000 years too long. You stand, say nothing, and turn away. Because whatever he brought back, from wherever he went, it's not finished yet. Back at the palace, you summon. You're a historian, not the official one. The old one, the one who writes things in ink and hides them in wax. You tell him to find any mention of men who return with dust in their mouths. He frowns and tells you a story. During the reign of Aurelian, a general disappeared into the east for 40 nights. He returned smiling, but his breath smelled of stone. He spoke no lies, but he also never blinked. Within 2 weeks, 3 senators died, the Tiber reversed for a day, and a sparrow began reciting war poems in the forum. They burned the general alive, and the sparrow vanished. You ask if it's true, he says. It's written, which in Rome is the same thing. Later, you retreat to the Hall of Masks, your sanctuary, your echo chamber. Dozens of bronze faces line the walls, cast from the dead, emperors who came before you. You sit, you stare at their eyes that never blink, never sleep, never forgive. You speak aloud, if one of you sent him back. I hope you choked on the cost. Silence answers. And for a moment, it sounds like guilt. That evening, a new scroll appears. Not wrapped, just resting on your pillow. You didn't hear anyone enter, but that doesn't surprise you anymore. You unroll it slowly. 7 words only, beneath the laurel, the first knife waits. You read it again, and then you remember. The laurel garden, your brother's garden. No, one enters it now. Not since his fall, not since his statue cracked during the eclipse. You summon no guards. You walk alone. The laurel grove is still, windless, too. Still the air feels paused, like Rome itself is holding its breath. You kneel beneath the largest tree, brush aside leaves, and find the dirt disturbed fresh. You dig slowly. Your fingers brushwood. You lift it, a small box, no lock, no seal inside. A dagger, simple, iron, ancient. Its handle carved with a jackal, and next to it a coin, but not Roman. Egyptian, too old, too clean. You hold both then. Place them back, not from fear, but because you understand. What this is, it's not a threat, it's an invitation. When you return to your chamber, something smells different. Frankincense, myrrh, funeral scents. You check the mirror. There is something on your cheek. A finger's width. Drawn while you slept. You wipe it off, but you know it's not gone. Not really, because what's begun now is older than Rome, older than gods, older than thrones. You lie down, you do not sleep, but you close your eyes, and in the dark, behind your lids you see sand. You hear footsteps on marble, and you know the next scroll will be written in blood. The next morning begins like a betrayal. Not loud, not violent, but quiet, methodical, like something crept into the room while you were sleeping and rearranged your thoughts. You sit up slowly, no pain, just the unsettling feeling that something is missing. You check the scroll shelf. You check the incense dish. You even check your sandals. Everything is where it should be, except the silence. It's too perfect to still. Like Rome herself has paused, mid-breath, and is waiting for your reaction. When the steward arrives, his hands are shaking, not spilling the tray, just shaking enough to tell you that something is wrong, and no one wants to say it first. You raise an eyebrow. He doesn't speak, but he places 2 objects before you. A fig, split open, filled not with seeds, but with dust, and a folded parchment, not a scroll, a letter, unmarked, handwritten, in a trembling script. Your name was whispered in the Senate, not in praise, but in prayer. You read it twice, then fold it calmly, because there is only one thing worse than being hated by the Senate, and that is being pitied by them by midday. The Senate chambers are restless, not chaotic, not loud, but oiled like a machine too. Quiet to trust. You do not enter through the main door. You take the passage reserved for morning consuls, because today you need to arrive like a funeral, not a ruler. The chamber opens before you like a throat about to swallow. Marble columns rise on either side. Senators in white togas stand as one, but no one bows. Not here, not in this space where law and illusion dance like twins. You take your seat at the curved, centered high above looking down. Not because you are better, but because your death would fall farther. Senator stands old, sharp-eyed. The kind who doesn't ask questions, he waits until your answer falls apart. He begins to speak. Not accusations, not insults, but observations. That the Nile rose late, that the fig harvest was thin, that dogs have begun howling at midday. Each fact delivered like a pebble. But together, they form a landslide. You do not flinch. Instead, you ask him, "Would you like me to order the moon to smile?" The chamber is quiet. Some smile, some don't. But all of them hear the edge. In your voice, you are not their friend. You are the God they haven't yet dared to crucify. When the meeting ends, no one speaks, no one claps. They simply file out in pairs, whispering like mice around a lion they hope is sleeping. You stay behind, alone, until a page boy returns with something forgotten. It is not a scroll, it's a doll, a small one, woven from reeds, painted in red ink. Its face has no eyes, and its arms are bent behind its back. That evening, the sky turns the color of dried blood, the kind of twilight that poets say signals the death of kings. You sit in the garden court. The wind is soft, almost kind. You want to believe it means something, but you've learned that even the wind has agendas in Rome. A servant brings word. There's been a disturbance near the temple of Vesta. A boy, 7 years old, caught speaking words. You shouldn't know. They say he recited names from the Book of Fates, names that have not been spoken since the founding of the Republic. Your name was among them, but not as ruler as sacrifice. You order the boy brought to you. Not bound, not beaten, just watched. He arrives close to midnight, eyes wide, but calm. He does not kneel. You ask his name. He says, "I forgot it." You ask who taught him the words. He shrugs. "They came in my dream." You lean closer and ask what the dream showed. He says, "A lion made of gold, bleeding bees from its mouth." Then he begins to hum. A tune no child should know. A funeral. Hymn reserved only for emperors. You send him away gently, back to wherever children wait to forget. Then you whisper to the empty room, "Who gave you that melody?" But only the shadows reply, and they do not sing. That night, you dream of a staircase, endless, spiraling downward, each step carved with names. Yours appears again and again, but each time it's spelled differently, as if Rome is trying to forget you in every possible way. You awaken before dawn. Something cold presses against your chest. You lift the sheets. Another reed doll, this one stabbed through the heart with a pin, made of bone. You do not panic. You rise. You bathe in silence. You dress in white, and you walk the palace alone, because you need Rome to see you. Still whole, still standing, even if inside. The pillars are crumbling at the foot of the imperial stairs. The scribe waits, he says. A message arrived, carved in wax. Not a scroll, not a letter. A seal, broken from something ancient. He hands you the wax. It's heavy, imprinted with a symbol you don't recognize. Not Roman, not Greek. It looks older, hungrier, a single eye surrounded by crows. You crush it in your palm, and the pieces fall like teeth. You retreat again to the hall of masks. You light the torches one by one, each flame casting a face into life. You walk the line, face to face with every emperor who ever thought he could cheat death. You stop at one mask, cracked, dull, eyed. Your father's. You speak to it. You told me it would be lonely, but you never said the silence would be full of knives. The mask does not answer, but for a moment, its mouth seems wider. You sleep again, not from peace, but from exhaustion. And just before the dream begins, you hear it, from deep beneath the floorboards, something moving, not walking, not slithering, something waiting. The morning does not arrive, not because the sun forgets to rise, but because you have chosen not to greet it. You're not above the city today, basking in applause and ceremonial hymns. You are below it, deep below, where the stone no longer remembers the warmth of daylight. You descend the final stair, alone, and your torch sizzles against the moisture in the air. Here, in the lowest level of the Palisa level, that no records speak of, and few dare name. The world ceases to resemble Rome. The steps stop. The corridor narrows. It becomes less hallway, more throat. The walls are not carved but folded, not built by hands but by pressure. There is no light source save for the one in your hand, and even that struggles to stretch its reach. Ahead, a gate, 7 hands wide, 7 hands high. Carved not from marble or wood, but volcanic stone, pitted, lopsided, bruised by time. Symbols coat its surface, arranged not in lines, but in clusters. Scribbled like someone trying to remember a dream, in a language they never learned. In the center, a seal of black wax, pressed long ago by a hand. No longer alive. You place your fingers against it. It crumbles, not cracks. Crumbles, as if it has been waiting specifically for you. The door does not swing. It breathes open. Sighs a breath older than Rome. You enter. Inside, not a tomb, not a treasure room, not a shrine, but something stranger. A wide chamber, circular. The floor dips downward into a pit lined with smooth obsidian tiles. Around the edge, 10 stone chairs face inward. Empty, but arranged, with chilling precision, like a forgotten council once held eternal session here. At the center, elevated on a low plinth, a mask, iron, expressionless, familiar to familiar. Because you've seen it before, in your dreams, in ancient murals, on the faces of statues that no longer bear names. You approach, you kneel, not in reverence, but because you can't stand, not from fatigue, but from the weight of something pushing down, not from above, but from below. As if the earth beneath you is exhaling memory, your hand reaches out, of its own accord. Fingers touch the mask. It is warm. No, not warm. Alive. The silence deepens. And from somewhere beneath, not far below your feet, but impossibly deeper than water, deeper than language, comes a sound. Not a voice, not a whisper, but a thought. Too large for your mind, too heavy for your skull. You stagger. You do not remember leaving the chamber, but you remember this. You did not take the mask. The mask took you. Back in the palace, everything looks the same, and nothing feels the same. Servants bow lower. Guards avoid your gaze. The air smells different, sharper, like iron and smoke. The sky is too quiet. There are no birds. Your steward meets you in the atrium. He doesn't speak, just hands you a sealed scroll. The wax is your own signet, but you didn't seal it. You open it slowly. 3 lines. The jackal stirs. The sparrow weeps. The crown was stolen, not forged. You ask him who delivered it. He tells you it was already waiting on your pillow before dawn. You do not sleep that night, because something else does, and it is dreaming you. By noon. Word spreads through the upper forums. The Senate has met underground, not in their marble halls, in the catacombs. You weren't invited. You, the emperor. Not summoned, not informed, only warned, quietly by the captain of the guard, that the senators have taken relics into the depths. Relics they swore never to retrieve. You descend into the darkness. You do not take guards. You do not take a torch, because the way is already lit. Lamps burn with strange green flames, as if the oil itself is from another time. The senators stand in a circle around a central altar. Upon it, a body. Not a man you knew personally, but his name echoes faintly. Lucius Caranus, a critic of your tax policies. A nobleman, a speaker of unpopular truths. His hands are tied behind his back. His lips sealed with wax. His chest marked with a symbol you now recognize far too well. The same symbol etched into the crypt's gate. The same one that appears in your dreams. Your approach stops. The murmurs, no one bows, no one speaks, but they part, and let you see what was left at his feet. Your second mask, identical to the first, but cracked. Split down the middle. Inside it, blood, not his too. Old. Too dry. The senators believe it is a warning, but you know better. It's an invitation. That night, you dream again. But this time, you don't start in bed. You start already walking, already descending. Spiral steps in endless blackness. You are not alone. Shadows drift behind you, not shapes, echoes of emperors past. Not all with names. One weeps, one laughs. One says nothing, and holds the mask in both hands. At the bottom of the stair, a door, the same stone, the same symbols. You open it inside. A throne, not gold, salt carved. With bones at the base, you sit, because something makes you, and from the ceiling. Sand begins to fall, not onto the floor. Onto you, it buries you slowly. First your legs, then your chest. You cannot move, you cannot scream, because the salt is inside your mouth. Now, you wake up gasping. Your mouth tastes of blood, and your pillow is covered in fine, white grains. At dawn, a child appears in the outer garden, not part of the palace. No guards remember seeing him arrive. He sings quietly, in a language no one knows. You approach, he smiles, points behind you. You turn. On the wall of the garden is the same symbol drawn in ash. When you turn back, the child is gone, but his voice echoes faintly. The throne beneath still waits. By noon, your steward quits. No letter, no farewell. He just leaves his robes on the steps and vanishes in his quarters. They find the same scroll you received, but with a fourth line added. He remembers your name. He does not forgive your face. You begin to understand. The face is the mask, and the mask is not a covering. It is a replacement. A memory worn like flesh, and someone or something wants it back. In desperation, you summon the Sibyl. She is old, blind in one eye, whispers to ravens, and reads from the cracks in bones. You ask her what the mask means. She doesn't answer, just places her fingers on your forehead, and begins to hum, not a tune, a warning. When she removes her hand, she whispers, "You are not the first, but you may be the last who chooses." Then she hands you a mirror, small, obsidian. You look into it, and the mask looks back on your face, already smiling. You drop it. It does not break, because it already did. A long, long time ago, that night, you light every lamp in your chamber. You do not sleep. You sit by the window. You write nothing because you no longer trust your hand. Instead, you whisper to yourself, to the walls, to the mask hidden beneath your bed. You say, "What are you, and what did I agree to become?" There is no answer, but the air gets colder. Not like wind, like silence given shape. By the third day, the guards begin whispering, of footsteps in halls where no one walks, of doors opening themselves, of statues, weeping salt water, and of a man in the West Wing, who speaks in your voice, but wears no eyes. You order the West Wing sealed, but by morning, it has already unsealed itself. The stone broken from the inside, scratch marks on the walls, each forming the same symbol again, and again, and again, until even the walls seem to chant it. The mask begins to appear in new places, in your bath, in your scroll room once, placed gently beside your cup of wine, always upright, always staring. You order it locked in the vault, triple dash, sealed, warded, buried. In salt it vanishes within the hour, and reappears in your bed, facing the ceiling, as if it's waiting to be worn. You try to run, disguise yourself, leave the city at dusk, but as you pass through the gates, a child blocks your path, the same one from before. He points to your hands. They are bleeding, but not from cuts, from symbols, the skin cracking open in patterns. You drop to your knees. The child smiles, and says, "You are not running away. You are returning." And when you look back, you are already at the palace, as if you never left, as if you were always meant to return, because Rome does not let its emperors go. Not until they've served their true purpose, and yours is just beginning. You no longer ask if you are awake, because the difference between waking and dreaming has dissolved. When you open your eyes in the morning, your bed is exactly where it should be. The walls still carry the frescoes of triumph, of legions and eagles and laurels, but the colors have dulled. The eyes of the painted gods seem to follow you now, more mournfully than before. And when you close your eyes at night, the palace returns in silence, but changed. Shadows pulse at the edges. Halls stretch too far. Columns whisper your name in forgotten dialects. You don't sleep anymore. You wander. You listen. You Wait not for messages but for instructions, because someone has begun to move. Inside your thoughts, not like a parasite, but a whisperer. A guide, a king of kings who no longer remembers his tomb. Or perhaps, never had one. The day begins, like all others, with silence. The priests refuse to enter your chamber. They leave your ceremonial tunic folded outside the door, resting atop a black cloth that smells faintly of myrrh and soot. You dress without help now. The cloth is heavier, not just in weight, but in history. It clings like debt. When you fasten the belt, your fingers tremble, because etched into the gold buckle is a pattern you've come to know well. The mark, the same symbol from the crypt, from the child, from your skin, now forged into your clothing, as if it was always supposed to be there, as if your ancestors were merely waiting for you to be ready. You descend to the hall of statues, not to preside, but to obey. The statues have moved. You're sure of it. An old depiction of the god Saturn now faces you. He used to gaze westward, toward the grain roots, toward prosperity. Now he gazes east, toward the rising sun and the gates. Beneath the palace, your guards don't follow you anymore. They pretend they do. They clatter behind, spears tapping, feet echoing in rhythm. But their eyes never meet yours. They see something else now. Not their emperor, but what sits behind your eyes. A letter arrives in the evening. Not wax-sealed, not hand-delivered. It simply appears upon your BATHWATER dot floating, as if placed gently by something that walked across the surface. You lift it. The parchment smells like rain, like dust from books. Buried too long, the ink is red. But you know it's not ink. There is no greeting, no signature, just a question. Do you still believe the throne is yours? You don't answer, because you don't know, because a part of you wants to answer no. But another part, the part with the masks, smile already whispered, yes. That night, the torches extinguish themselves, not all at once. One by one, as you walk the corridor, toward the archive vault, each torch hisses, flutters, and dies as you pass. The hallway goes dark behind you. You do not turn around, because there's nothing left behind you now, only the way forward. The archive is cold, colder than the bathhouse pools, colder than memory. Scrolls are piled like bones, stacked in confusion, not by scholars, but by panic. You kneel. You search. You find it. Not a scroll, not a map, a letter, older than Rome, written not in Latin, but in a tongue so old even the scribes dare not name it. But you read it fluently, because the mask has taught you. It says, the city was never built, it was remembered. We did not raise the stones. We uncovered them. You place the letter in your robe. You leave the archive as you pass the first torch. It ignites on its own, and behind you, one by one, the others follow. The corridor reads itself in reverse, not to guide you back, but to mark that you are watched, every step. Now is part of a ritual, even when you don't know the words. In the Senate chamber, there are no senators, just one figure, sitting on your throne, wearing your crown. He is not breathing, but he is. Upright hands resting gently on the armrests, a mask over his face, not yours, but similar. Ancient, cracked, he turns toward you, not with his neck, but with something deeper, as if your own spine shivers in response. You step closer. His hand rises, points upward. You look on the ceiling. In ashes the symbol again. But this time it moves, slowly, turning, pulsing as if breathing. You look back at the man, but he is gone. Only the crown remains, resting on the seat, and beneath it, ash, still, warm. You gather the priests, the oldest ones, the ones who no longer speak aloud, only through signs and incense. You ask them what they know. They kneel, all of them then. Together they begin to chant. It's not Latin, it's older, slower. You catch one word, Usurcarum. You've heard it before. In a dream, in a whisper. It is not a name, it is a title. The king below Rome. They speak of him only in incense smoke, that he ruled before language, before empire, that Rome was built atop his palace. that each emperor is chosen, not by blood, but by echo, that the mask is his promise, and the crown, his test. You ask how to break the chain. They do not answer. They simply bow and leave, one by one, until you are alone, with the smell of ash and the distant sound of someone sobbing. Behind the stone walls the following morning, your reflection blinks before you do. You test it again. Left, right, up, down. You move. Then it moves. Delayed. Mocking. A smile forms not on your face, but in the mirror. Not wide. Not warm. Just ... Knowing like a secret, finally being acknowledged. You throw the mirror. It doesn't break. It doesn't fall. It hangs in the air, spinning slowly, then settles itself back on the table, exactly where it was. You whisper, "What do you want?" And the answer appears across the glass, in red script, to finish what you began. The final descent begins on the 7th night. The child returns, but older. His eyes are hollow, not blind - emptied. He does not speak. He merely extends a hand. You take it because there is nothing else to take. He leads you beyond the known corridors, through a wall that should be solid, into a chamber without corners. The air smells like time, and behind a thin veil of silk, the final door, not stone, not wood, not even physical. It's made of sound. A low hum, like thousands of voices whispering the same word endlessly. The boy lifts his hand. The door dissolves, and you step through. The throne room beneath Rome is not gold. It is black, stone darker than shadow, lit not by torches, but by memory. The walls rippled with faces, not carved, imprisoned, former emperors, each staring, silent, unmoving, not screaming, because there is no mouth, only eyes, and above the central throne, the mask, not suspended, hovering, spinning gently, waiting you. Approach. The boy is gone. You are alone. You kneel, you rise, you extend your hands, and the mask descends onto your palms. It fits perfectly, as if it was made from your own bone. You turn the faces on the wall, blink one by one, and from the ceiling, a voice. You are remembered. You are returned. You are Rome. You place the mask upon your face. It is cold, then warm, then nothing at all. You no longer see with eyes. You see with history. You feel the blood of every emperor. Before you, their victories, their failures, their screams. You feel the stones of Rome beneath your skin, the Forum in your ribs, the Tiber in your veins. You feel eternal and endlessly cursed. The throne accepts you not because it must, but because it has waited. The stone reshapes itself, becomes softer, then sharper, then flesh, and then flesh. Pulls you downward, into it, not to trap you, but to unite. You are not being seated, you are being absorbed, above the city. The sky darkens, the crows circle, the obelisks hum, and in the Senate chamber, where once your crown sat, a new mask appears smiling, waiting because Rome never needed a ruler. It needed a vessel, and now it has one. You are gone, but you are still here. Somewhere beneath the Forum, beyond the stone veins of Rome, your body restive, one can still call it a body. It no longer pulses with blood, but with legacy. You are not breathing, you are remembering. The mask feeds you memory like wine, like fire. One drop at a time. Too much, and you'd drown. Instead, it lets you sip. Sip the life of every emperor before you. Sip the screams of the damned who wore the crown not as power, but as punishment. You have not spoken aloud in 3 days, not because your tongue has withered, but because there is no one left to speak to. The guards avoid your chamber, the priests whisper your name like a forbidden curse. And the people have begun to see the sky differently, not as blue, not as eternal, but as watched. The days are no longer marked by sun, they are marked by murmurs. The palace halls tremble now, even when there is no wind. Frescoes peel in silence, columns sweat black tears, and in the lower chambers, where mosaics once told tales of glory, the stones have begun to shift. You see the pattern in your dreams. You see it when you blink. You see it etched into your fingernails. A symbol that once meant dominion, but now means debt. The throne is not yours. You are its. On the fourth morning of silence, a messenger arrives, not from the Senate, not from the temple, from the catacombs. He is not alive, but he walks. His face is pale. His robes are soaked in wine that has turned to blood. He does not blink. He carries no scroll, only a whisper. The one before you awaits. You do not ask where. You already know. Beneath the Palatine Hill, where no builder claims to have ever dug, but where your feet carry you nonetheless. The torches flicker blue as you pass. The air smells of copper, salt, and unsaid things. You walk through a hall that should not exist, a corridor made entirely of broken altars, each etched with a single name, each name scratched out. All except one, Idius the last. You pause, not because of fear, but recognition, because the name has appeared in your mind. Every night since the mask found your skin, Idius the last. The emperor who vanished, the emperor who bled the stars into the Tiber, the emperor who sealed the gate. The chamber is small, bare, no throne, no sculpture, only dust, and a man sitting cross-legged in the center. He is not young, but not old. His skin is made of silence. His eyes have flamed when he looks at you. Time flinches. You do not speak, because he already knows every word you've ever spoken. You kneel, because there is no other option. He tilts his head, like a parent or a predator, and says, in a voice that sounds like your father and your nightmares at once, "Do you know what the mask is?" You whisper, "A crown." He smiles. "No, a bargain." Idius rises. His bones creak like ancient wood. He steps toward you. His hand touches your chestnut roughly, but deeply. You feel him not on your skin, but in your lineage. You see visions, 1,000 Romes, each buried beneath the other, each one ruled not by law or force, but by fear. He says, the mask was made before Rome, before language. It was carved from the last thought of a dying god. Your breath halts, not from fear, from recognition. You felt it, the ancientness, the weight that is not physical, but eternal. He continues. Every emperor thinks he wears it. Every emperor thinks he rules it, but it wears them, and it rules. Memory, you ask. Finally, why me? Idius closes his eyes, and when he opens them again, they are yours. Your face stares back at you. Your voice answers, because you asked the wrong question. You wake in your own bed, but the sheets are different. They are older, stained, smelling of wet ash and honeyed decay. The ceiling is carved with names. Yours is the last, and next to it is space, still blank, still waiting. Your chamber is colder, not from weather, but from anticipation. The mask is on the table, but it is breathing slightly, like a sleeping beast. Dreaming of conquest, you do not touch it. It does not need touching. It has already reshaped. Your mind, you see echoes and shadows. You hear prayers in silence, and every time someone bows before you, they are not bowing to you. They are bowing to it. That evening, the Senate gathers by your order, but not by your will. They sit in a crescent, their faces painted with obedience and dread. You rise, you speak. Your voice echoes louder than it should, because it's not just your voice, it's every voice that ever ruled. You announce a new decree, one that has no beginning, one that has no end. From this day forward, Rome shall not fear death, for it is no longer mortal. We shall bury nothing, we shall forget no one. The dead shall advise us, the living shall serve them. Silence, not a single senator objects, because behind your throne, the mask is watching in the streets. Whispers turn to songs, not joyous, but hypnotic. Children hum melodies, no one taught them. Old women speak languages never recorded. The sky is no longer sky. It is a ceiling, painted with symbols, pulsing, hungry, and in the sewers, in the crypts, in the temples long collapsed. The dead stir, not to walk, but to watch. Their eyes glow faintly. Their mouths murmur one word, over and over. Remember, you have not eaten in days, but you are not hungry. You do not sleep, but you are not tired. Your body is fading, your will is growing. You begin to write, not decrees, but instructions. For the next, because the mask will not rest it, will never rest it, must be worn, it must be passed. You do not fear death, you fear forgetting. Because that is the one thing the mask cannot forgive. In the final week, you hold court one last time. You sit upon the throne. But it is no longer made of stone. It pulses, it lives, it sighs beneath you, as if welcoming its air. You open your arms, and the people come. Each touches your hand, each murmurs their name, and you whisper it back. Because you know them all now, not as individuals, but as moments you are. Rome, not the man, not the city, the memory, the curse, the comfort, the mask. Smiles because it is ready, because you are ready, in the catacombs below. A new chamber opens. No doors, no light, only a stone table, and upon it, the mask, resting, waiting, because, somewhere far above, a child is being born. And one day, he will ask, why does the emperor never blink? And the answer will come in a whisper, because he never sleeps. He only remembers. The city no longer sleeps, not because it's restless, but because it remembers. Every column leans toward the past. Every street whispers stories in syllables of wind and marble. And in the stillness before dawn, Rome does not breathe. It listens, listens for footsteps, listens for voices, listens for the next emperor. But none comes. Not yet, because deep below the Palatine Hill, in a chamber older than history, something impossible is happening. The mask waits, and no one arrives for the first time. In centuries, the pattern is broken. The line is silent. The crown has no air. Because above the earth, on a quiet hillside, overlooking the Forum ruins, a boy stands alone, and he refuses to kneel. His name is Lucius, son of no noble house. He was born on a night, no omens, no comets, no blood moons, just silence. And for the first time in generations, the priests did not gather. The scrolls remained blank, and the city did not prepare for ascension, because Lucius was not chosen. He was spared, raised among gardeners and scribes. Lucius lived quietly. He played with river frogs. He carved crude statues from olive wood, and he asked questions no one wanted to answer. Why does the sun only rise if we pray? Why does the emperor never grow old? Why are the statues always watching? His mother warned him. His father shushed him. But the mask heard. It began with dreams, soft at first. Golden throne buried in vines. A city made of ash and bone. And always, always the whisper, we remember. Do you? He ignored it at first, but the dreams grew louder. They came during waking hours. Reflections lingered too long. Statues blinked. Birds chanted in Latin. One morning, Lucius awoke, with sand in his mouth, and the taste of old wine on his tongue. Another morning, he spoke the name Idius, before ever learning to read. By 13, he stopped sleeping. By 14, he stopped aging. By 15, the Senate arrived. They bowed, offered silks, promised temples in his name, begged him to wear the mask. But Lucius said no. Not with anger, not with fear, just calm refusal. Rome has had enough gods. And then he walked away. Into the fields, into the forests, and the mask left behind in its crypt began to crack, far beneath the marble. The chamber trembled. The first fracture in eternity. The first disobedience since the pact was carved into time itself. The mask screamed. But no one heard. No heir arrived. No crown was passed. And for the first time since the first king choked on power, the throne remained empty. Lucius traveled not with fanfare, but with silence. He saw the sea not as Neptune's domain, but as salt and time. He climbed mountains, not to speak with gods, but to feel small and satisfied in that smallness. And everywhere he went, the world began to forget. Statues wept dust. Altars grew moss. The temples fell quiet, their gods retreating into memory. Rome was not destroyed. Rome was released, because without a memory to feed on, the curse faded. The mask began to rot, the throne grew cold, and the voices went still. One final time, Lucius returned to the city, older now, still young, but marked by choice, not ritual. The streets welcomed him not with parades, but with peace. The wind did not bow, the stones did not whisper. Even the forum, once alive with secrets, was finally silent, and beneath the palace, in the place no map dared mark, the door stood open. Lucius descended, not as a sacrifice, not as an heir, as a man, a real one. He found the mask half buried in sand and crumbling. Memory, it no longer glowed, it no longer breathed. It wept rust. Lucius picked it, upheld it, studied it. The faces inside it, the emperors of old no longer begged, they no longer warned, they watched and waited. Lucius placed it on the stone altar, not on his face, not on his brow, and spoke 3 words. You are done. The chamber cracked. The weight lifted above. The skies cleared. Not magically, just naturally. A breeze passed through the colonnades. Like a sigh, the river shimmered, and the last trace of the eternal God-bearer was forgotten, not buried, not denied, just let go. In the years that followed, Rome became many things. A republic, a ruin, of memory. But never again did it kneel to a man wearing a mask. Never again did it confuse divinity with duty, and deep beneath the ground, in that quiet stone tomb, the mask still rests, silent, hollow, a relic of memories, hunger, and on the altar, carved by no hand, a final line appeared. He remembered, and so we could forget. You are no longer emperor. You are no longer divine. You are no longer afraid. You are free, and for the first time in thousands of years, so is Rome.